All right. Hey, Linnea, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. So I'm excited for us to have this chat that we can share with participants who are going to be enrolling in our BIPOC, sorry, in our Brainspotting Phase 1 Attuning to BIPOC experiences in May.
hmm
Don't remember the dates off from my top of my head. Is it like May
Oh,
13, 14, 15?
yes. There you go.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those are the dates, and that's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday um, training.
hmm
And I guess first off, people should know that this is a regular. It's the content is a regular brain spotting phase 1 training,
Right.
because
Yeah.
I think sometimes folks feel like there's something extra going on when the phase ones, like the BIPOC or something like this, something extra happening in it, and there really isn't. You're still getting all of the things and actually see plus. So it's all of the things plus all of the things that you would get in a standard brain spotting training, except for this one, where the plus is attuning to BIPOC experiences.
Right. And I think it would be helpful, just as I'm listening to you talk, to maybe talk about just how this idea even came to be, right? That this is in
Mhm.
response to requests.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So since I started, we had the first BIPOC back then. We called it uh, um, people of color or
hmm
clinicians of color training, which was in December 2019. It feels like ages with pandemic, but it was 2 years ago in Atlanta. And that was a in-person training. Leading up to that and after, I've gotten, I wouldn't say a ton, but I've gotten several requests
hmm
to have where people wanted to come to a training, but because it was only BIPOC professionals um, that were permitted to attend. I had a lot of Caucasian folks, and also some folks who are BIPOC but felt like they didn't want a BIPOC only space, but they would want sort of this idea of collaboration, more intentional collaboration in the training around diversity and inclusion and stuff like that. So
hmm
that's
hmm
why I decided, after having a lot of several, I don't even know how many BIPOC trainings we've had now. I should probably count them up, but I don't. But we've trained over 1,200 people now, which is amazing. So that's why I
hmm
decided, well, this is the time we can have a brain spotting phase 1 training, teaching phase 1 in the context of attuning to BIPOC experiences, because we know that there are many Caucasian therapists who work with um, have a larger percentage, not just one or two, not that one or two aren't important, but that work with the larger percentages of BIPOC individuals. And so part of this training would be to really attune to what those experiences are like
hmm
um, as we do the training. So when we go through the training, we will be speaking from the perspective, both Linnea and Linnea can certainly share from her perspective. We will be pursuing. So I will, for example, I say things like as a Black man or as a gay man or as an atheist, right? So these
hmm
are sort of the things that come out during the training, and what my experiences and what you can, we talk about what the experience is, because we talk about the frame in brain spotting, what those experiences can be like, and what you as a new brain spotter can begin to integrate from the very beginning,
hmm
um, the issues and the challenges that can pop up. And it's not all bad. So it's not like, we're going to have a whip out being, but really it's about really being intentional and mindful, not just for clients, but also for the training space as
Yeah.
well, in terms of what happens in a training space. And anyway, so I'll let you share some of what we've talked about. And
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, you're kind of following along with what I was thinking in terms of the training space and how you and I have had conversations about how do we want to hold this space in a way that allows for folks to learn about you know, how they show up in the world, right? And how they show up in integrated space. And that there's probably going to be opportunities, for instance, for us to identify when a microaggression has occurred and an opportunity to call people in for repair or to increase their awareness. And so again, not adding curriculum to phase one, but that even just the conversations and when we're having questions, when we're responding to people's questions, we might be able to highlight some of these interactions and these dynamics that then folks can leave the training with a better understanding of what they maybe should be working on in terms of their own awareness of BIPOC experience. Certainly folks can focus on these things when they're doing their own practicums too, right? So if they get triggered, or maybe they've said something that they carry some guilt around, that they can go into those practicums and process some of what's happening in the training as well as they're learning phase one. So I think it's an amazing pairing, right? For us to be able to hold that space in such a way that promotes this kind of understanding and an opportunity for you know, repair if those things happen. Because again, I know that we both share the experience of being in other spaces where it's not held that way. And so as a BIPOC person, then we are put in the position of having to tolerate, you know, self-care in a way that maybe inhibits our own opportunity to learn. So it creates barriers in our own training experience. And we really want to help folks, one, remove those kind of barriers to the extent that we can, and understand how do you do a repair? How do you recognize the aggression, microaggression? And then how do you do a repair? Because, you know, I don't believe that everyone out there is running around trying to injure folks. But I do think that when it's called to your awareness that maybe has happened, you know, all the defenses can come in, or maybe avoidance, some escape, right? And so it really, you know, our intention, right, is to call people in and be able to repair those things as they happen.
Right. And for me, one of the beauties of this is that, you know, you can go to diversity and inclusion training, but most diversity and inclusion trainings, they don't have the clinical component to them. So they're not talking about the psychotherapeutic interactions that happen. All right. It's sort of human, but, you know, psychotherapeutic humanness is, you know, specifically unique, if I can be redundant. Right. And so there's so many people, and, you know, BIPOC people do this all the time. They need help. And they just go, you know what? Can't find a BIPOC therapist. I'll just have to go to a white therapist, and I will just have to tolerate when stuff happens so that I can get whatever healing I can get from this situation. And so that's part of my desire too, is to help Caucasian folks who want to do this, but also in the therapeutic and in the learning of brain spotting, right? How can you be as open, as mindful, and as intentional as possible so that when a BIPOC person comes to you, they can maximize their healing. And my hope is, as a result of going through this very specific, you know, attuning to BIPOC experiences, that the BIPOC person can feel like, oh, this person feels a little bit more attuned than I had expected as a result of having this training. And I'm just gonna say, you know, you don't have to come to the training if you don't want to come to the training. If you feel like, I don't want to do that, it feels, you know, to whatever, why can't we all just get along? Perfectly fine to have all of those reactions and feelings. And if you feel this is, you know, not a good match for you, that's fine. Like if you want to come to the BIPOC only training, that's fine. If you want to go to a training that doesn't have sort of the scaffolding around it, that is fine too. But for those of you who are thinking and would like to come, we're trying to be as transparent as possible as to, you know, what we're anticipating. We're anticipating a wonderful experience, but we're also wanting you to know that if things happen, that we're going to pause and take some time to have those repairs done. So I say this especially for our BIPOC folk, that we want to make sure that we're holding you in a very protective way as well, and we'll do our best to ensure that we are holding you in as protective a way as possible. So if things happen, to be blunt, we all go to the training where the trainer says something, a lot of times it's just completely racist.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody says anything, and we all just sit there. The BIPOC sit there. We might look at each other, kind of, I see that, but then there's no place to take that. And what our hope and desire is that should something like that occur, that we would just take pause and take some time to address it in a healing, in a healing way. So, we're hoping. So that's what I mean by transparency. We're not trying to be kumbaya, la da 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 da, that nothing is going to happen.
Right.
So yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I guess I would just reiterate that, we're not adding curriculum. This is not a diversity and equity and inclusion training. And so, folks will be coming into the space with a spectrum of awareness and education around those issues. And while it is attuning to BIPOC experiences, you and I are very attuned to just experiences of marginalized populations, period. So, while the emphasis might be on BIPOC, because of who we are as trainers, and then all of the facilitators will also be BIPOC to support that space. I just want to make sure that folks are not coming in thinking that they're going to learn how to work with African American folks, or how to work with Asian folks, or how to work with Latinx folks. That we are, interested in addressing kind of dynamics in the moment, and everyone having the experience of that. And, all of this is lifelong learning, right? And so just continuing to hopefully pick up a couple of nuggets of where you need more education, more awareness, more training, that you can carry that forth into your practice and, in your own development. Sorry if you heard an airplane go by.
It's okay. I know you live by the airport.
Yeah.
Oh, the weather must be warm. What is it, 35 degrees?
It is gorgeous here. It is. I will tell you, for all of you that don't know, I am in Minneapolis and it's 45 degrees and I have the window open because it's people.
Yeah, it's 40. I'm in Oakland, folks, and if it's 45 degrees, my windows are shut.
Yeah.
And my heat is on. I guess I wanted to just say I'm losing a train of thought here about learning, so that if you're a Caucasian therapist, part of this is just really understanding that if your BIPOC client comes to you and starts talking to you about their Caucasian boss and what they're doing, you got to be aware. You got to be aware of the dynamic that's happening between you as a Caucasian therapist and your BIPOC client.
Right.
And you got to be attuned to that. And that's really what we're saying when you're talking about attuning to BIPOC experiences. Like, you got to be attuned to, as much as you can, to all of the complexities of that dynamic that's happening as you're about to do brain spotting with that person. And then you learn in the training about limbic countertransference, and you got to be aware of that and how that can show up and impact the quality of your brain spotting session with your BIPOC client, and any client that may have something that's different. A client that maybe an atheist like myself, or an LGBT client, or any variety of the ways in which these issues are not talked about in regular trainings. People just kind of brush these things over. So again, as Linnea said, why we're saying attuning to BIPOC, and that's the focus. It's not only. It's not only. That might be primary, but it's not the only thing that will be really trying to shape and as folks learning brain spotting, to get it in from the beginning.
Yep. All right.
All right.
I think we did it.
I think we did. Do we want to certainly, if folks have any questions, the registration is on your website.
Yep.
So
Yep.
they can send you questions. You can also send me questions after you watch this video. And my email is BSP trainer, boy, Sam, Peter, BSP trainer at westcoastpsychotherapy.com.
Mhm.
So you
And
can always email me with any questions for clarifications or anything like that.
yep. Yep. And I wish there was a way you could type it into the video, but some other highly technical person knows how to do that, not me. But so my email is brainspotting at twinflowerpsych.com. So all this will be, listed in the posting that we do, wherever we're posting this to. And then my website for registration is twinflowerpsych.com. All right.
All right. Okay, so we hope to see many of you there.